Good evening, Kenton community. My name is Sabatino Sumato. I am your superintendent, and this is your weekly Connection update. So today in the Connection, there's a few topics that I really want to address. First, we're going to talk about approaching the finish line, what that means for next year, what you can anticipate, also what it means for this year when we're speaking about graduation ceremonies. That's going to be our biggest part of tonight. Then we're going to go right into our recognitions, and we have a few recognitions today that I'm going to share with everyone, and that's how we're going to finish off. But there are a few recognitions to get to that are all equally important to each other. So let's get started. First, you'll notice in the Connection we have a title called Approaching the Finish Line. Now, what I want to just clear up for everyone is that there's a few things that we can absolutely anticipate from the Kenton District. And folks, I want us to anticipate, I know that what we are going to be doing, and everyone should expect, that we are going to be back in September, full instruction, in person, 5 days a week for all of our grade levels. That is to finish this year. I want everyone to anticipate that for next year. Now, folks, I also want you to anticipate that we're not going to be offering that remote option. So that is going to take some people by surprise, but that is how we're moving forward. We know that nothing beats full in-person instruction with our teachers. Our teachers do the best, and our kids do the best when they're with those phenomenal teachers. So be prepared for that for September. Now, if we are directed otherwise this summer, guidance has not come out for September yet, that we must have that virtual option, then we'll cross that road when we come to it. But I want our public to be prepared for what September will look like. Rates are completely in the basement. Vaccinations are on the increase. We should be prepared for that in September. Nothing beats our great educators in person in the classroom, and that's where we can anticipate to be. So, as we approach this finish line, we know that this is our last time that we are hoping, our last time that we will be in this model, and we are coming out of it on fire together as one team. We do still have to finish up though. Our students need to finish strongly. We also need to finish strongly with our graduation ceremonies. Now, folks, I have some information to share with you when it comes to graduations because a lot of different information has been coming out. I want all of our families of seniors at both Kenmore East, Kenmore West to be prepared. Big Picture already had their graduation ceremony, so this is really pertaining to Kenmore East and Kenmore West being prepared for those ceremonies. This is the great news. Kenton, we've already worked over the past 2 months. We've been sharing our plans with our community. We planned on one ceremony for each of those schools to begin with. So that was a hurdle that many other places were facing. In Kenton, we heard our families loudly and clearly. We heard our students loudly and clearly. The biggest priority was that all the kids in each of those classes got to graduate together. So we did that. We have Kenmore West taking place at Crosby Field, Kenmore East taking place at Adams Field. Done deal. We also heard that we wanted our families to be there. Now, folks, outside of the realm of COVID, there's only so much that we could do in our fields. But we do know that every family got 2 tickets, and that is going to remain the same. I want to remind everybody, to plan graduations, it's not an overnight thing. We also have to worry about other security things just outside of the realm of COVID as well. COVID's not the only thing that's been challenging or that will be a challenge for graduations in the future. So just to reiterate, all of our students are in the location, at least for that school. So Kenmore West has their own ceremony, Kenmore East has their own ceremony with 2 guests per person, and that is the ceremony. That's not changing. We have everything rented, everything set up, everything ready for those venues. So we're a go. Now let's just keep our fingers crossed, everybody, that we have a beautiful weekend next weekend. Remember, it's not this weekend, it's next weekend, and everything will be great. But the thing that has changed is when it comes to masks. And I promised everyone at the board meeting that I would be telling people where we are with masks. Now, look at vaccinated people don't have to worry about masking whatsoever. And that includes students, staff, guests, visitors, as long as we're outside, and we are outside for both graduation ceremonies. So, no masking required for vaccinated. Unvaccinated people, and this works on the honor system, so I really need our community to focus on this. If you're unvaccinated, we would ask that you wear the mask just when you're moving to and from your seat. When you're seated, all the seats are 6 feet apart. We set up the venue that way, and like I said, it took us a long time to plan, a long time to design, a long time to get things that kept and maintained our fields, safety for our fields. We have millions of dollars invested in turf. We wanted the best ceremony that we can. Everyone is socially distant, so no matter what, when you're seated, everyone can have their masks off. We ask unvaccinated individuals, when you're moving about, please have your mask on. Of course, anyone who wants to wear a mask will absolutely be able to wear a mask. And also, great announcement, as kids go across the stage, nobody has to wear their mask when they go across the stage, vaccinated or not, and then they can choose to. Each school will have their own procedures for what happens on stage and what doesn't. That's part of graduation all the time. And those schools are going to be also communicating by early next week with any final things to expect from that ceremony. So just to reiterate, each school has their own ceremony. Fantastic. Great job by our families and our teams at each school. Each student got to have 2 guest tickets. So each person has those 2 guest tickets, as well as no mask required for everybody when they're seated, and only unvaccinated people when they're moving about. And we just asked, that works on the honor system. Now, folks, I'm going to tell you something. We are not going to make this day about masks. We are making this day about kids and everything they've accomplished for 12, 13, and 14 years, if you include pre-kindergarten and kindergarten. And thank you to families. Thank you to staff. Thank you to administrators, our teachers, our support staff, everybody that's had a hand in really bringing kids to this point. Remember, commencement is a beginning. It's a beginning to the rest of their lives. It's not the end. We just have to make sure we get through this end part strongly. So kids, do your part to make sure you're walking across that stage. Nothing foolish is happening over the next week that would ever put you in jeopardy of graduation or at least attending that ceremony. And we're doing this together as one Kenton family. I can't wait. It promises to be a great event. So see everybody there. It's going to be a great time. Also, I want to talk about parking at these 2 events. Adams Field, for those that are going to Kenmore East, you have Franklin right behind. Franklin Elementary, Franklin Middle School. There's parking there. There's probably some parking on the streets as well. But also for Kenmore East, we're going to have a shuttle that if parking runs out at those locations, you could park at Kenmore East and we'll have a shuttle going back and forth for Kenmore East. Make sure if you take that shuttle, everybody has to wear a mask. Also, if you're taking a shuttle, families, drop your kiddo off at the field and then go bring your car and take the shuttle from Kenmore East. For Kenmore West, parking is going to be much more challenging. I want to remind everybody, parking is opened at Lindbergh, which is just a block walk away from Crosby Field. So everybody from Kenmore West, you could park at Lindbergh, both the front and the back. Same thing with Franklin for Kenmore East. There's parking on the side, the front, and the back. Lindbergh has parking on the front and the back. There's street parking for Crosby Field. But also for Kenmore West, we're going to have that same shuttle service. Drop kiddos off, families, please, at Crosby Field. You could go to Kenmore West and we'll have a shuttle running from Kenmore West on those days to help with parking as well. Like I said, schools are going to be sending out this information and more information by the beginning of next week, but we're just over a week away, keeping fingers crossed that everything goes well, and a congratulations to everyone for working so hard. Kenton is absolutely one of the communities at the leading edge of showing what collaboration can accomplish. So excellent, excellent work. Speaking of recognition and graduations, big picture. Class of 2021, I attended their ceremony on Tuesday, June 15th. It was the Master of Ceremonies, of course, Principal Kevin Kruger and Christopher Watson of the 401 senior class. We were joined by board members, by family members, by teachers, our staff, other administrators. What a great time. What an accomplishment to get to that next stage of life And kiddos, you should really be proud of yourself. Folks, I encourage you to look at some of the pictures that we have. Remember our big picture program, non-traditional program, and those kids worked their tails off to get to the point of commencement, to get to that next stage of life. And we are so very proud of you. Speaking of kids moving on to the next level, we had kiddos from our high school programs that are college-bound athletes. And I encourage you, really look at our screen right now. You're going to see all of the names of these kiddos that we're proud to recognize from Kenmore East and Kenmore West, who absolutely will be competing at the college level next year. These students were recognized for their athletic achievements at signing ceremonies led by, of course, none other than the Director of Athletics, Brett Banker, Assistant Director of Athletics, James Badgley, and all of our coaches that were involved, all of our administrators. According to the National Collegiate Athletics Association, fewer than 8%, that's less than 1 in 10 of high school athletes are accepted into NCAA divisional programs. So these students represent the elite among high school athletes and move on to compete at the college level. Please join me in congratulating these students on their achievements. And this is just one story of achievements from our students in Kenton. Finish strongly, kiddos. The next part of your life is right around the corner, and what a great way to start that next stage. And finally, it brings us to our final recognition. Speaking of seniors, these two young ladies, Mr. President Chimera and myself, we refer to them as our school, our Kenton community daughters that are leaders within our Kenton community, Lauren Reinhardt and Kendall Brock. And we are extremely proud to recognize these two members of our Board of Education and class of 2021. Lauren Reinhardt from Kenmore East, Kendall Brock from Kenmore West, and Lauren and Kendall served this past year as our student representatives on the Board of Education. They also initiated a new leadership structure called the District Leadership Council. This initiative brings students together from all of the high school and middle school programs in our district, and the council is intended, here's the key, to provide opportunities to share best practice with each other, so that's kids sharing with kids, as well as give feedback and provide feedback to district leadership. The goal of the DLC is encouraging student voice and leadership to find ways to make district-wide connections. And these two young ladies, they were so phenomenal. At one point, an adult observed them teaching one of the sessions, and they commented to Mr. Chimera and myself. They said, "Oh, who are those wonderful two new young teachers that are up there?" Somebody mistook our seniors, our two leaders, Lauren and Kendall, for already certified young adult teachers because they do such a quality job. They did such a quality job, and we can't be thankful enough for the legacy that they've left on Kenton. Congratulations to our daughters, Kendall and Lauren, and to their families for doing such a great job. And folks, that's how I'm going to end today. Our kids are at this next stage, and it's important to recognize none of our kids got here by chance, by luck. They got here through work, and that work was not just for those kiddos. That work was also from our families and the dedication of an entire Kenton community, including our teachers, administrators, and support staff. We find that in Kenton, the more we work together, the more that we work with the center being our students, the more that we will accomplish as one community. I can't tell you how proud I am to be a superintendent in Kenton and to be coming out of this pandemic with such promising future for all of our community. Thank you very much for everyone in our community for making us Kenton proud, keeping us Kenton strong, and moving Kenton forward. Have a wonderful week, everyone.